Hello guys and girls, Screezilla here, I hope you're all well. And welcome to Atlantic Fleet. Now today I'm going to be doing a bit of a special video for me. This one's actually quite close to my heart. We're doing a video today on HMS Berwick. She was a Kent-class county cruiser, and has a little bit of importance to me because my granddad served upon this ship. He served upon the ship from, I think, 41 to 42 or 43, before disembarking and becoming a sonar operator on a smaller destroyer. But the Berwick is sort of a ship that doesn't really get much spoken of. It doesn't have a massive war record. It's not a historic ship in the sense of, like the Hood and things like that, which were beautiful ships. It's not a very pretty looking ship, in fact. So today we're going to be playing a campaign towards Christmas. And this is where the Berwick got the most use in the war, almost. Well, not most used, but it's where it did some damage and actually did something of note. Now, I'm not saying the Berwick didn't do much of note, because it did. It did a lot for the campaigns, especially for the Land Lease program. It was a escort ship working through the Norwegian coastline, going from Britain to Russia, and that's where my granddad served. But luckily, it didn't see much action in naval warfare in that respect, because the Tirpitz, as much of a threat as it was, did not come out to play, so to say. Now, the Kent-class cruiser is a heavy cruiser. Now, it was built within the weight limitations of the pact, whatever pact it is, I always forget the name. The Washington Treaty, is it? I think it is. I always forget the name of the treaty for some reason, and it's one of those things I should remember. Anyway, let's talk about this ship a little bit before we go into action with the Hipper. Now, Kent-class cruisers initially had 7 ships: the Berwick, the Cornwall, the Cumberland, the Kent, the Suffolk, built for the Royal Navy, and the Canberra for the Australian Navy. And Australia, of course. They were a heavy cruiser, as I say. They were pretty beastly things. They were very big. They were they weren't quite battle cruiser levels, but they were heavy cruisers in all respects. Now, if you look at the Berwick here, you can see it's a very big ship. Very large ship, very heavy ship. It was built within treaty limits, but technically it did go over it a little bit. They were first ordered in 1924 and commissioned in 1928. They had a few teething problems, mainly with the funnels. They had to actually put them a bit higher because they had issues with the flumes not getting the smoke away enough, and much of the crew getting sick. They had some relatively big guns on board as well. Where am I? My notes. I've lost my notes, which is always what happens when I'm doing stuff. So there we go. It started with 8-inch guns. There we go. Got the right one. Okay, for some reason I could not find that in my notes, and I forgot what it was in my brain. So you've got twin turrets at the front. So you've got 8 guns in total. You also have some secondary guns as well on board. Now, originally they did have torpedoes. You can actually see the torpedo tubes on this ship right here. But they were removed in later designs, basically. I'm not sure if the Berwick actually has it still in this respect. Let's just move, go full flank, and where is the hipper? The hipper's over there. So we're going to keep a broadside on. I'm going to move. Get the hipper in sight. So I don't think she actually has the torpedoes. Oh no, she has got the torpedoes. There we go. So yeah, still have the torpedoes at this stage of the war. Now, these were removed a little bit later on. They were actually removed by 1939. So, a bit strange to have them on the boat in this game. So yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit confused there for a second. Having to scratch my head thinking, well, what's going on there for? I'm trying to think if the Berwick actually did get the torpedoes removed earlier on, or if she had them removed in her refit after this engagement. But anyway, we'll get to that later. No, it shouldn't have torpedoes. So Atlantic Fleet have got something wrong for a change, which is nice. So there is a reason I was confused there for a second, being, why are the torpedo tubes still on there? So anyway, originally designed, this is basically the 1938-39 version of the ship with slight upgrades to the later variant. So you've got the, I think it's the Walrus on board there, the Ferry Walrus, which is a spotter plane, basically, and seaplane, catapult plane. They didn't use a fighter on this one, it was more of a bomber/rescue plane, the Walrus, although it could drop depth charges, things like that, on enemy submarines, which was very handy. Where am I going? So, read through my parts here because I just want to get up to speed. So, the Berwick participated in the Norwegian campaign, the invasion of Iceland, and then she was allocated to Force H at Gibraltar, arriving on the 7th of November in 1940. On the 27th of November, while taking part of Operation Collar, Berwick was hit by a single 203mm shell from an Italian heavy cruiser, either the Polar or the Fiume, which knocked out her wide turret and killed 7 men, sadly. A second round struck her some minutes later, destroying the electrical switchboard in the aft of the ship, leaving the aft section of the cruiser without power. And it's believed that Trenton-class Italian cruiser, or either the Triste or the Trento, were credited for that hit. Now, this is where we're at today. On the 25th of December 1940, Berwick engaged the German heavy cruiser, the Admiral Hipper, off the Canary Islands, when she formed part of an escort to convoy the WS-5A troop convoys to the Middle East. Despite being thoroughly ready for combat, Berwick got the worst of the encounter. She scored no hits to the Admiral Hipper and sustained a fair amount of damage, being hit by several 8-inch and 4.1-inch shells. The action did, however, drive off the Admiral Hipper and save the convoy from any losses. Sadly, 4 of her complement were lost in this engagement, and she returned to Britain for repairs, which lasted until June 1941, and that's when my granddad took station on this ship. When she was repaired, the Hippo joined the home fleet, and for the remainder of the war was on escorting convoys to North Russia, and operated in the Northern Sea. In late 1944, in October, the ship carried 3 Norwegian forces from Britain to Murmansk, so they could participate in the liberation of Finnmark. She escorted 2 carrier raids against the German battleship Tirpitz in 1944 and again in 1945, Berwick's last role was to escort carriers that were raiding the Norwegian coast in 1945. Sadly, she was broken up in June of 1948, and that was the end of her story. As I said, not a hugely not a huge part of the war was played with this ship, but it was an important ship nonetheless. Like all ships of the war, they all played their part. Even the tiniest little destroyers off the coast, or the corvettes, they all served a purpose. Now, the Kent class was a very decent cruiser, but it's not the prettiest of cruisers, in my opinion. Some may beg to differ. It also had the problem of this back section here, like the hood, being very low to the waterline. You'll actually see some of the waves breaking over the back section here, and it did cause some problems for the back section of the ship, mainly because water would splash in over the tops there and cause a lot of dampening in this area. It was the same on the hood, unfortunately. It was a bit of a poor British design. The sister ship, the Kent, I've lost my spot again. Sorry, I'm doing a terrible job today. Yes, Kent actually had some of the decks removed. It had the top deck removed to save weight because they needed to get it in under treaty regulations, even though these ships never actually fell under it, because once they were fully loaded, they were well over the limit. But that we don't say anything about that sort of thing. That's okay as long as you don't tell people. It's all okay. Mainly for the refit, you can just see there the after the ship getting sploshed by water. So let's get on with the game. Now we've got the Hipper over here. In my opinion, a much prettier cruiser. Now the Hipper was sent out to basically cause problems, and that's what they did. They were basically there to cause issue with there we go, that's what I wanted. Cause problems and strike merchant ships. Now we can see over there that the Hipper is quite far range. We'll get our firing numbers up here. So we need 23.9 elevation. It's at 26. It's going 26.7 knots. So let's get our guns to elevated. So we want 23.9. Now then, let's switch to our binoculars. And we will get the gun set at 270. I reckon. 270 seems fair. Fire slightly in front. Which way is the wind blowing? The wind's blowing towards us, isn't it? So let's go to 220. That's a bit off. There we go. That looks like a good firing position. So we've got her in sights. We'll fire off some AP rounds at long distance and see what we get. Hopefully we'll get some hits here. All fell a bit short. That wind is definitely not helping us today. So we'll jump onto the light cruiser, the Bonaventure. Ah, God, I cannot speak today. I'm having a terrible day today. I do beg your apologies. I'm still a little bit sick from from cold things. So let's swing our guns around. Click on the hipper. So 24. We'll actually go to 25, I think, because that wind is playing into us today. Let's go to 25.4, I'd say. And we'll fire off a salvo of our AP shells. And still way too short. Yes. Okay. Now then, we've got our merchant fleet now, which are carrying the troops and supplies for Africa and the Mediterranean campaign. So we're going to turn them hard to starboard, full power, and we're going to try and get them all out of dodge. So the hipper's now turning in. Looks like it's firing off a star shell. Try and get some light over us to get some better view. There we go. So we are lit up like a Christmas tree. Now luckily it's a bit far over us because they've got the wind behind them, of course, whereas we've got the wind in front of us. So we're going to move again, and we're going to try and get some firing solutions on this ship. So let's have a look, see where our first rounds went off. So you can see our first rounds were far too short at that elevation, although technically they should have hit it. Because of the wind blowing towards them, it's really affecting them. So let's go to 26.5. Well, it is a little bit closer. We might just go to 25.5, and we'll fire off another broadside. Let's see how these shells do. Oh, it's looking better. There are now some wet Germans on board that ship. And we'll move the lighter cruiser in, and we'll get that gun up to 32.5, I think. Now we might switch to HE shells here, because although we should be able to penetrate, we want to do a bit of damage. No, we don't have any air sort of forces to help us. So let's see how these shells do. Now, Atlantic Fleet is a fantastic game. Still a bit short and a little bit off-centre. If you've seen if you've seen this game before, you know what it's about. It's basically a turn-based strategy game for warships. Oh, this is not looking good. Got a nasty little hit on the back of the ship there, but it does not look too damaged, thankfully. So that is good news, but it does mean that the hipper has got the range sorted out. Now, it might have been firing at the Berwick there, of course, but it did look like it was going for those convoy ships. Now then, so our firing solution shows that we might be able to hit it here. So we're going to fire off again, and hopefully at this range we might get some hits. Let's just switch to our binoculars again, and we might just move the guns slightly to the left of the ship. There we go. So it's very fun. It's a very tricky game though. It is very hard. Unlike World of Warships or things like that, it's not as fast-paced, of course. Good, we got a couple of nice hits on the Bowers ship there. No real damage probably, but we did at least get some hits on her, which will cause some Germans to be a little bit scared. It does not look like we actually penetrated the armour though. It looks like we just scorched it a little bit. No, wait, we've actually got a nice big hole there, so that's good. We've actually caused a slight breach in her armour by the looks of it. And the secondary one, a little bit of a hole. So she's starting to list a little bit, hopefully. So we can hopefully do some damage there, so that's good news. So then, now what do we do here? Do we set a smoke screen to try and protect these ships? I think that's what we're going to do here. We're going to smoke up, and we're going to try and protect our convoy, because that's the important part of this game for us. This is our mission, to try and sink the Hipper, but also to protect our ships. Now this is the ship that got hit, and you can see that the steering gear is damaged, so the rudder has taken a bit of a hit. AAA guns being damaged as well, and also the pumps are down as well, so we've got a little bit of a list on the ship. It doesn't look like there's any holes in her hull, so it looks like the hull is intact, so that shell just went straight through this section and has damaged the engine and the steering gears, all the pumps and stuff like that. Well, not the engine, the pumps and the steering gear. Luckily the engine section, of course the boiler room, is in this section of the ship, so we should hopefully be okay there for this one. So we'll select our fleet and we'll keep them. Actually we won't, because this one's going to be moving a little bit funny still. You can see it's turning still, but it's just turning on its own accord. Keep moving this to starboard. Now the Hip's turning into us. So only 2 of our front guns can now get on target, and those all went too far, so that's good news. Now, with the Berwick, we're actually going to turn hard port. I'm going to turn into the Hipper. So, we can only get our front turrets to bear here now. Let's look at our firing solutions. So, we need to bring in our guns a little bit, because they're going to go a bit far if we fire them off here. So, let's go down to 25, I'd say. We also have got a bit closer as well, so let's drop it to 24.5. Although our firing solution is saying a 23 degree elevation, I don't trust it with the wind. So, let's have a little bit of a look, see where we're on target. So we're straight on, so hopefully we won't fall short, but if we do fall a bit far, then at least we will hit it. Let's see how these rounds go. Oh, looking good. Not great dispersion, but we get a great hit on the bow, on the stern of the ship. So, it's turning in, so we're going to have to turn port as well on this, on the light cruiser here. Now then. So we've got a little bit closer. It's come closer to us. Now I reckon this firing solution is actually going to be just in range, although it's saying 25.4 elevation with that wind blowing into us. Hopefully this will work. Let's see how these go. Good range, but poor shot. We're a little bit over the ship. So let's move this fleet. We'll keep turning starboard as hard as possible, going at full speed ahead. Now the Hipper's got a little bit of a list on her. Firing off. Oh, nasty hit there, just on the side of that freighter. So then, we can move possibly straight ahead now, and we might be able to get our rear turrets on target. Not quite yet. Now, 4 was at 24.5 elevation, so let's bring them down to 23.5, because we've got closer and it's got closer to us. And let's fire. Which way is the wind blowing? Well, the wind's blowing pretty much directly head on, but we are going to turn our guns slightly. Just slightly to the left of her. go. And let's fire off a salvo. Hopefully we get some hits this time. A bit far, we need to bring in the guns a little bit closer. Okay, let's turn a little bit to starboard. Now we better fire off a broadside again. So we've gotten closer, it's gotten closer to us. Number 2 was 32.5, 25.4, so let's go down to... let's go down to 28. Let's go to 28 and give it a try. And what I might do here is fire a star shell at her to light it up. So this will help with the range finding, make it easier to shoot at this ship, because we'll be able to see it. Now you see, that range was pretty much perfect as well, so we had some good shots there. Now which ship got hit? That's my question. I believe it was this one. Nope. Looks like we're pretty good on the convoy at the moment. Everybody's looking pretty pretty sound. We'll actually start going straight ahead now and try and get some speed into these ships. Now the Hipper's giving chase still. Firing off another salvo. Good, they missed. So the flare is now over the Hipper over there. So we've got the ship in sight. Let's try and get a broadside off on this one now. So we've got much closer now. We're in a very close fight here. So the gun elevation is 16.3. Now this should be a lot more accurate because we are at this close range, but also because we can see the ship now because of that flare overhead. Let's see how this goes. Let's fire off the salvo. A bit short. Got to counter into the wind effect. So let's move. And we will switch to... let's switch to AP shells here. So that star shell was pretty much on target. Now we have got a little bit closer, so we might drop it down to 28.5. Or 28. I think 28 will be good. Okay, let's fire off a salvo. Hope for some hits here. A little bit long. We should have gone down a little bit. Okay. So one of the great things about this game is it does give you that real feeling of naval combat, because you have got to counter into the elevation of guns, you've got to counter into the wind, you've got to counter into the time of day. It is a very tricky game in that respect, which is great. There's a lot more strategy involved, and the actual campaign is fantastic. It's a really fun game to play. So we'll keep the guns at... actually raise them a little bit. We'll go to 16.5, I think. There's a lot more strategy involved in this because you simply have to counter into so many different aspects. Now there are submarines in the game as well. You have planes that you can use. It's actually a mobile version of this game, and the mobile variant is still very good. I still actually play that on my phone when I'm very, very bored. Let's fire off the guns again. Ooh, we've got a okay hit there. Nothing spectacular, but we did get a hit at least. Now we're almost broadside onto the Hipper here. So we're going to need to bring those guns down a fair bit. We'll go to 17.5, I think. It's saying 16.3, but I think the wind, we need to add a little bit more elevation in there. The Hipper does look like it's listing a little bit, so we have done some damage. So we'll fire off a full broadside again. Still a bit short. Drat. The fact that you have to sort of do different missions as well does make a difference too. Having to escort merchant ships is always fun because they are so fragile and weak. So that is a fun aspect of it. Now you can see that the star shells have gone, so our flares have gone, so we're now fighting in the dark with each other. So let's see if we can get a hit this time. Now you can see there the damage on the starboard of the ship. So let's see our map solution. So number 6 was probably the closest we've had for a while. 16.5, but we have moved a little bit closer to each other. So let's drop it down to 15.5. Okay, let's see how this goes. It's looking good. We get 2 good hits and we've caused a fire on her now. So the Hipper has taken a jolly good thrashing now from these ships. So that is good news. So we're rewriting history right now, and this is one of the fun parts of this game, is you can play historical battles. As I said, this is the historical battle where the Berwick came up against the Hipper. Now in history, the Hipper was the worst off. It didn't do very well in this fight. It did save the fleet, the merchant fleet, but it did get a bloody nose from it and need to get repairs that took almost a year. So then, 5th shot at 17.5 was short. We've moved a little bit closer. They've moved a little bit closer to us. Let's go to 17.8 and let's fire off another salvo. Still a little bit short there. We'll move these guys along. Now the Hipper is starting to turn and get out of dodge a little bit. Putting up a smoke screen as well now to make it a bit harder to fire upon it. So as you see, the Hipper is listing pretty badly. The starboard side is almost below the waterline. As you can see, it's starting to go down a little bit. The port side is starting to raise. There is this nasty fire in the, well, it's not almost the midship. So that is just in front of the 3rd turret as well, which is never a good thing. So it's a dangerous spot for a fire. Now let's see what damage it's got. So one of the AAA guns is taken out of action. Well, it's damaged. So there's some damage to the AAA of this this ship, which isn't really much use to us because we don't have any planes, so we can't really do much. But fire is always bad on a ship, so this means this ship's got to put a smoke screen up, which means it can't fire in this move. So we can't target the ship for firing solutions very easily now because it's covered by smoke. We can still see it, which is good news, but because of the smoke screen, it basically takes out our guidance system for our guns. However, as you see here, we've been using the map, and this is what we've been using to target. So we've moved a little bit closer, and they've moved a little bit closer, and the last shot was at 15.5. So if we go to 15.2, hopefully, I say hopefully, these shots will be on target. Beautiful. We got, I think, 3 direct hits there on the Hipper. So that's some serious damage there. That's going to really affect the crew. Now then, let's see what we got, if we got any more hits to the hull. Yes, we've damaged the hull again. So there is now a big hole in the back of her hull. So we've got 2 holes below the waterline, so that is good damage there. That's really going to slow this ship down. We've damaged the pumps, the propulsion, the main spot, the radar as well. and also had torpedoes, or the starboard torpedoes. So serious damage on this ship now, and this ship is seriously wounded, so it's going to have to start thinking about running away from battle, because, well, it's losing this fight. So that is good news for us. Bad news for the Hipper. So we've got a little bit closer, and they're a little bit closer. What I think we're going to do actually is raise it up to 18 degrees. And we're going to fire off another broadside. We're going to actually use the HE shells this time. We're going to try and do some damage to the superstructure area, because we've penetrated the ship now. Let's try and pepper over some high explosive rounds. These look good. So we do a couple of nice little hits on the deck of the ship there, which will cause some minor damage. You know, HE rounds do not cause as much damage as an AP round, of course, because they're not technically going into the ship. But you will cause damage on the deck. You can cause damage to the spotting system, radars, anything on the top as well. So this ship is in some serious trouble. Also, it can set the ship alight too, which is always handy. So this ship is burning pretty bad now. So it's starting to move away from us as well, trying to get out of action, trying to repair. Now with its propulsion system down, it means it is a sitting duck almost. So let's, our last shot out 15.2, let's go down to 14.8. Now we want to fire at the front of the ship this time. So let's fire off again. Hopefully we'll get some more hits with those nice big shells. Beautiful. Straight into the superstructure there. Now that's not going to cause too much damage, because I think we did hit the smokestack. But we've taken out the AAA system of the ship. It's caused more damage. We've not got any more holes in the waterline area, so it's not sinking anymore, but that will cause some serious damage to the ship. We want to try and hit this section here, take out the main area of the boat, the main superstructure area at least. But we have caused more damage, and this is going to mean the Hipper needs more time to repair, which means that we won't get fired back upon. So let's keep moving forwards. We'll actually switch to the AP shell again. Now we could possibly fire a torpedo salvo off at this ship as well, but I think we're going to keep with guns for the time being. So 6 was a good shot, so let's keep that range. Let's switch to binoculars, so we're on the front of the ship, so hopefully we'll hit the superstructure. Let's fire off some armor-piercing shells. Little bit short, just a tiny bit off. Now we'll keep moving this merchant fleet. Big explosion there. Gonna fire off the guns just as a real, you know, sore loser German would. 9-9, we are not going down without sinking ships. So that looks like it was a magazine rack that exploded. So serious fire there. The engines, there's fire over the boiler room as well, which is not good. And you can see this ship is listing seriously to starboard. The back section is now underwater, so she is going down. The Hipper needs to get out of here quickly, or it is sinking. So I don't think the Hipper's going to use smoke anymore. It's going to just try its best to sink our ships and get out of Dodge, really, because it is losing this battle. As you can see, the deck is almost underwater here, so we have really, really damaged this boat. Being that her propulsion system's down as well, the Hipper is not getting out of here without a serious bit of damage caused to it. Now it's going to try and take down as many of our merchant vessels as possible now, of course, so we really need to try and take the guns out at least, to really, really bloody it. So number 6 was still on target. I think we're going to keep the same elevation because of that wind, so we'll fire off again. It might be a little bit long. Beautiful. Straight into the boiler room there. That is the end of the smokestack, and the hipper is going to be going down very shortly. That is a serious, serious damage there. You could see that the catapult fighter is completely ruined. The smokestack's gone. The control tower is gone. Let's see what damage is caused to it. So propulsion is very damaged. Pumps are very damaged, which is great. The main spotter is pretty much gone. I imagine he's somewhere over here, swimming, after a big explosion like that. We did not cause any more hull damage, but this ship is going down fast. With these two fires on board as well, that is really going to affect this boat's ability to fight. Now I'll actually move a little bit to port here, get a bit closer. Now those last shots were short, of course, but we have got closer to it. It is moving away from us, though. So we'll risk a shot here, I think, and try and fire as we are. Try and fire at the front part of the ship again. Try and hit that superstructure again. Okay, we've got one hit there on the deck. Now we're going to move our fleet hard starboard. Try and sort of break them up a little bit. Hopefully manoeuvre them so the hipper can't shoot them. Now the hipper is smoking like a businessman with lots and lots of cigars. The hipper is now in serious trouble though, and is starting to think, I has made a mistake. I thought history said I won this battle. Not today, Fritz, not today. So we need to bring in our guns a little bit because they overshot a little bit. So 14.8, let's drop it down to 14.4. And let's look on the binoculars and try and get a shot. I'm actually going to aim midship here, I think. Let's fire off another broadside. Another decent hit on the deck there, so that will cause some serious damage inside of the ship. We've got nothing but smoke to look at here. Now 6 was a bit short, so let's raise it up to 17. Let's raise it up to 18.2, I think. And we're going to aim slightly to the front, and let's fire off the broadside. These look good. Get 2 rather nice juicy hits there on the hipper. And let's jink these ships to port. The hipper is really suffering. Going to fire off 2 shots. All miss, which is nice to see. I imagine those merchant ships are pretty happy with that. So the hipper is really, really wounded now. Looks like it's going to start trying to run from the action. Now, it's not going to make it very far because the propulsion system is absolutely buggered. As you can see with the lack of smokestack there. Now the rear fire has gone out. The radar is back on sort of back working. The spotter is back in his position. He swung back to the ship. So the guns will be back working. So that's a little bit disconcerting. However, it's lost propulsion, pumps, and her starboard torpedoes. So we don't have to worry about torpedoes coming out to us, which is good news. We really need to take the ship out though. Now the D turret looks like it's almost underwater at this stage as the waves lap over it. You can see that as it goes down, the turret is almost getting flooded, so that's good news. So we are really, really damaging this boat. Let's turn a little bit to starboard so we can keep broadsiding it. Let's look at our firing solutions. So 6 was good, I remember, so we'll actually bring it down to let's go down to 13.5 this time. And we'll fire off again towards the front of the ship. Let's see how these fare. Hopefully we'll get some good hits this time round. Does look good. Beautiful. Some nice hits there onto the Hipper's armour and deck. Now, being that the Hipper is pretty stationary at the moment, right, launch one there, and one there, because she's still moving a little bit in the tide and the current, and she's still got a little bit of propulsion, not much. But we're going to fire off a torpedo salvo, and hopefully they will hit, because they will cause some serious damage to that ship. Now, they will take some time to get there, but we may actually get the coup de grace with those torpedoes. Firing off a full broadside this time. All of them miss. Very close to that merchant ship there. There are some trousers that need to be changed for sure. Torpedo spread's looking okay, but the Hipper does look to be moving a little bit faster than expected. Now, Berwick, let's see what you can do. So let's just check out this boat. Now, definitely sinking. It's getting that sinking feeling. The pumps and propulsion are still badly damaged. But, as you can see, this ship is not lasting long in this battle. It is seriously taking on water, and it is listing pretty badly to starboard. With that, of course, it's going to start getting top-heavy. As more water rushes into the bottom of the ship, the top will start to get heavier, so the water will slosh around, get into this section here. Being that it's quite stormy as well, will cause the ship to rock more, and the water will slush around and cause the ship to rock even more, and it should capsize. Although most of the water is rushing to the back, as you can see, because the stern of the ship is going down a lot faster than the bow of the ship, but hopefully we can sort of get some more damage on this thing. So I think we'll keep at the same firing elevation. Now I might actually fire more towards the back this time, see if I can make some holes in her hull and help her go down a bit quicker. There we go, got another fire on the back of the ship. And a little bit to port. And we will switch to armor piercing again. Unfortunately, we're not really going to do too much with the 5.2 5-inch yeah, the 5-inch the 5.2-inch shells, because the armor on that ship's pretty heavy, but we might cause a little bit of damage. Let's see our firing elevation. So we're actually going to raise it a little bit, I think. We're going to go to 18.5 and see how we go. Not much. We're a little bit overshot there a little bit. Move these ships on a bit more. Try and get them out of range of the Hipper. Firing off a salvo again. All of them look to have missed, which is good news. Torpedoes are going along nicely, so as you can see, because the Hipper's not moving too fast, those torpedoes are looking okay still. So we might still get the torpedoes on target. Let's fire a little bit to the front this time. Now, that last shot was a bit over, wasn't it? 6. So let's reel down the guns a little bit. We'll go to 13 degrees, I think. And we'll fire off another salvo. Beautiful. Serious hits there. The Hipper is hemorrhaging blood now. More than a bloody nose. Let's have a look at the damage. So radar is pretty much out. Spotter is damaged again. We have caused some more holes in the hull of the ship, so this is going to be taking on water at an extremely fast rate now. The pumps are pretty much non-existent. Now, with those hits on the back of the ship as well, on the stern of the ship, it's going to really start taking in water towards the back. As you can see now, it's listing pretty badly. The water is now lapping over this D-gun turret. So, with this light cruiser, let's see if we can do some more damage. So, what was our last shot like? The last shot was a little bit over. So let's go down to 17.5, I think. We'll try that. Look good. We get one good hit there. Now the Hipper is really struggling, it seems. Still firing off like a wounded bear, lashing out, but those rounds are not going to hit. Torpedoes are still steaming towards that ship. I reckon in 1 or 2 more turns they are going to be hitting her. So it looks like we have won the battle today. Christmas has been good to the King's Navy. But we still want to finish it off with a Berwick if we can. So 6 was pretty good for distance there. I've got a little bit closer. We will drop to 13.8, I think. 12.8, sorry, not 13.8. Well, let's go to 12.7. Okay, let's fire off another broadside. Beautiful. A large explosion there. This ship is really not going to be lasting much longer. The Kriegsmarine on board are starting to think about abandoning ship, I imagine, because things are not going their way today. This is not how history wrote it, but history can be changed, at least in video games. So that last shot was quite over. So let's go to 16.5. Lots of hits and a big explosion there. Let's see what we did to the Hipper. Oh, the Admiral Hipper is not looking good now. You can see that the aft spotting and radar stations are absolutely in shambles at the moment. That explosion has taken out probably most of the boiler. The hull is very broken up. This ship is more underwater than it is over the water. It's turning into a submarine, not a ship. Well, they are the same thing, but it's turning into a submarine, not a cruiser. So I do not see this lasting much longer, and you might be able to see just in the distance there 3 bubble trails coming towards it as well. So the Hipper is not looking in a good condition now. Let us keep moving these merchant vessels off to their destination to get the troops to the Mediterranean and Africa. Now, interestingly enough, my granddad on my mother's side served in the Mediterranean and Africa. I'm not sure on the dates though, but it is plausible that he was on that on those ships going to that location. It's one of those funny things in history. You sort of go, things are connected. How strange. What a small world. It's a queer coincidence sometimes. So those torpedoes are going to hit next round. So Berwick's last chance to take out the Hipper, although really it has taken out the Hipper, is now. So let's drop it down to 12.5, I think. Let's fire off another broadside. Some more damage to the Hipper there. This boat is not going down without a fight for sure. The Hipper has put up a great, valiant effort today, but it is not enough. Looks like the Hipper is in serious trouble because those torpedoes are getting very close. It's firing off the last couple of shots that it can muster. They fall very short. And the torpedoes are coming in straight into the ship. And that is the end of the Hipper. It is going down, down, way down. And that is the end of the battle and today's video. I hope you enjoyed this. Something a little bit different. It's not a true history of, but I just wanted to really do a brush over of this ship. As I say, it is a bit important to me, this one, because it, you know, kept my granddad alive and kept him doing well. The Hipper has gone completely underwater. This ship is going down fast now from those torpedo strikes. Bit of an overkill almost on this boat. But the Hipper is going down to Davy Jones's locker. Hopefully the crew managed to jump off in time. But history has changed. The battle of the Hipper and the Berwick did not go the way of the Hipper this time. As you can see, we actually caused some damage to the gun turrets there. We actually got penetrations on the gun turrets. You can see how many hits this ship took, though. It did not go down without a fight. C and D turret were both destroyed at the end of the battle, of course. And that was from those last sort of shots from the guns. But that is the end of the Admiral Hipper. Now, of course, the Admiral Hipper did not end this way in reality. The Admiral Hipper was a very, very fearsome ship. Where is my stuff on the Hipper? Of course, I lost my notes again. I don't know why I'm singing, but that's what I do. So the Hipper was actually scuttled on the 3rd of May 1945 and then scrapped. So it did not get sunk in the war. It had a very, very good career. It was a very fearsome ship and did a lot of damage to the merchants of the merchant navy. It was one of those ships that was very feared. Also a very pretty ship, as I mentioned before. Well, that's the end of the Hipper. And we'll finish off looking at our stats. So we had light damage to both freighters. Nothing major though. The Berwick and the Bonaventure, neither of which had serious damage. Now you could say it's a little bit unfair having 2 against 1 in this battle, but you know, the Hipper did start it. Of course, in reality, the Hipper did get the best of the Berwick, but the Berwick did save these freighters. So that is all for today. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought. A bit of a longer video today, almost an hour long actually, so if you've made it to this stage with my ramblings and sniffly nose and stuff like that, well done, and thank you so much for watching. Okay guys, until next time, this is Screezilla out. Bye bye.